Hey, I'm Jordan. This is my roundup of games I played in July 2022, I guess. Yeah, I skipped June. That was mostly because during the time I would have recorded this, I was actually at Dice Tower East. And then when I got back, I just never got around to it. So, sorry guys. But we had a lot of fun playing games in July. I had went to Dice Tower. Dice Tower East down in Orlando, which was a fantastic convention. I wasn't there the whole time. I missed the first couple days because of work-related things, but it was a really, really good time. I played a lot of games. I hung out. I did some volunteering and just kind of, spent some time with some folks I don't get to see a lot. So that was a lot of fun. And then, I just played some games. I probably didn't play as many games as I often do. Some people in my regular weekly game group were on vacations and, just life in general. So, but it was pretty good. A pretty good game. Dice Tower East, I got to play some games I'm going to talk about tonight, but some games that I just don't have, so I don't really have like pictures to show or anything. Probably my favorite game I played there was Planet Unknown, which is a new one from Adam's Apple Games. That's like a polyomino game, but it was really like the bigger, deeper kind of game where you have like this cool Lazy Susan board, and you're going to take these polyomino tiles and put them on your board, and then you're moving up tracks, and I love tracks, so that was awesome. It's kind of expensive, but it's definitely one that I'm going to be trying to track down a copy of because it was really cool. But yeah, so let's talk about some other games that I played just in general. So first one I wanted to talk about, I played at Dice Tower East, but I also played before Dice Tower East with a friend at his place who happens to have a copy, and that's Foundations of Rome. I don't own Foundations of Rome. It would take up half of one of my shelves back here, and that's, frankly, I just don't have a ton of space for a game like that. Yeah, Foundations of Rome is a kind of tile-laying game, but they're miniature building, like they're miniatures in building form. The board looks like a choir, if you have ever played that old classic game that is a letter and number grid kind of board. And then you're going to be collecting these deeds to the different spaces on the board, similar to another game called Chinatown. Those are the two games that, in my mind, it kind of feels like a mashup between. But then you're going to be taking these deeds, and as you're collecting these deeds, you're going to be putting markers down, and then you can build these buildings on your board, and those buildings are going to give you income, they're going to give you points, and sometimes they're going to give you both, and you can kind of swap out these buildings and upgrade the buildings throughout the game. Oh, and population, they're going to give you population too. And depending on how you're moving up these different point tracks is kind of how it's going to be throughout the game. It is a pretty light game. You only have the option to take a new deed card, you have the option to put a building down, or you have the option of taking income. And I think those are the only three things you do on a turn. Very light game. I got to teach it to some folks at Dice Tower East who had never played it before. It feels like a game that I really enjoy. I think it's a fantastic game. I'd probably say it's like I would probably, I'd give it an awesome rating, like a 8.5 to 9. Like, it's a really solid game, fantastic game. But it is so big. It's massive. It is like it's like a brick, and it is too expensive for what the game is. I wish it was a smaller, more typical like Ticket to Ride size box. Like if it was that kind of game, I would be all about it. It'd be so good. But because it's so overproduced and it's such a spectacle kind of game, it doesn't, in my mind, I have a hard time matching those two things. I will play it when given the chance, but it's not one that I want to take up my shelf space for. I'd rather have other games there. So fantastic game, but not one. I mean, I know it's going to be on Kickstarter. Maybe it's on Kickstarter now. I know the new expansions for it, but I'm probably not tracking it down because it's too big and too expensive for what I have space for. All right, and a game that I got to play once so far, I'm hoping to play it again soon, is Radlands. So this is kind of a first impressions. This one was provided to me by Miniature Market, so thank you guys. This is a 2-player only game. It's a combat card game where you're going to have these different, it's kind of a futuristic post-apocalyptic type thing with, you know, punks and ATVs and weird. You know, it just, the artwork is really cool, but it's like it's post-apocalyptic, so it's kind of grimy in how it looks. But this game is so colorful, it doesn't feel grimy. It has a lot of neon colors. It's almost post-apocalyptic with cyberpunk coloring. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of how I would frame this. And so it doesn't feel, it looks grimy, but doesn't feel grimy, if that makes sense. The whole look of the game has very stark images, and I think it's really, really great looking. I don't have the playmats. I guess the Kickstarter edition comes with playmats, which I think would really enhance how the game plays. But you're going to have these 3 rows of cards, and each of those rows is going to be in front. It's going to be a column as well, and each of those columns is protecting one of your locations. And you're going to have a couple different people in front of those locations that are protecting those bases that you have. And you're just kind of marching these cards forward, taking attacks at your opponent and trying to get back to their bases. And it just plays really smoothly. The cards have multi-uses, so of course they have actions along the bottom that you can use on your turns. You can spend cards from your hand to do other actions, and it also has an action point system similar to you know, something like maybe a Tikal or something like that, where the actions cost different numbers of points. But in Radlands, all the cards it's like 1, 2, or 3 points, but you only have, you know, 3 or 4 action points each turn. So it doesn't feel like a game like Tikal where you have, 10 action points and you're like, okay, I'll do this one and then I'll do this one and then I'll do this one and then I'll do this, and you like lose track of it. But in Radlands, you only have a couple action points, so it's not going to be a huge deal. It's just a great mishmash of those mechanics that feel, the game feels familiar. You know, it doesn't feel like something that's groundbreaking, but the combination of everything is really slick, and the production of it is also fantastic. The cards are great, the artwork is awesome, and it just has a really unique kind of feel to it. So I'm really enjoying this one, and I hope to play it again soon. So that's Radlands. I picked this one up from Target, like immediately when it was released, and that's Planted. As you guys know, I love Phil Walker Harding. I think he's one of the best designers out there. The way that he takes mechanics and just boils them down to kind of their essence, I think is wonderful. He's designed some of my favorite games: Baron Park, Llama Land, Gizmos, Sushi Go, Cacao. I have a whole bunch of his over here, games over here. And so Planted this is staying in my collection. This is a fantastic card drafting game. Now, what makes this game unique in the card drafting kind of genre, I guess, or mechanic of games, is that this one uses card drafting combined with resource management. And so a lot of card drafting games are set collection games. I think of Sushi Go, Draftosaurus as a 7 Wonders. Those are kind of games where you're collecting, you know, sets of cards. And so you're going to be using those cards in order to score points at the end of the game. Planted is going to have you draft cards, and then you immediately play those cards and collect resources. And then at the end of the round, you're going to take all those resources and allocate them to the different houseplants that you've collected. And the different houseplants are going to require water, plant food, sun, some combination of those, and then they're going to score you points. And you want to have the most, wonderful looking houseplant garden, which if you know anything about me, I don't actually care for houseplants very much. But this game is really, really solid. It is a lightweight game. I've played this with a lot of different people who have all taken to it really well. The artwork is fantastic. The production is awesome. All the pieces are like chunky plastic, really satisfying. I wish the card quality was better, but everything else in the box is great. I bought it for 20 bucks. I think it's now up to a whole $30. I don't know if that was a mistake when they first put it out. I think it's a whole $30, but I mean, you can't, I don't know. This is fantastic for 30 bucks. Frankly, I think maybe Radlands was around the same price, and might be a better game objectively, but I think Planted is really good, and I'm really happy that it's like a Target game that a lot of people will be able to get their hands on. So Planted, really great. And one of my favorite games I've played in July, and also probably one of my favorite games I've played this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 1, 2, 3 at the end of the year. I've enjoyed this one tremendously, and that is the Guild of Merchant Explorers. I don't know if I've talked about it on this channel because I feel like I keep talking about it. So if I already talked about it on here, I'm really sorry, guys, but I'm going to talk about it again. This is what feels like a flip and right game, a bingo style game. You're going to flip a card and everybody takes that action. Those actions are putting cubes out on this hex map, and you are exploring this map with and you're creating routes, and you're trying to connect spots on your board, trying to connect trade routes or finish areas on your board in order to score points and put these villages on. And throughout the game, once per round, you get this special bonus action. The special bonus action, usually on your turn, you're putting maybe like 1, 2, maybe on your turn you're putting like 1, 2, 3 cubes down on the board per turn, but these special bonus actions let you put down like 4, 5, 6 cubes all at once, maybe all in a straight line, or you get to put them all on water and land, zigzagging or something like that. And they just feel like you're breaking the rules, and they feel super overpowered, but everybody has one. And then you get a second one in the second round. You get to do it in the, you get your new special power in the second round, and you get to take your first special action too. And at the end of the game, you're going to take all 3 of these special actions plus one of your choice. And those kind of, it just feels really satisfying. And then each turn you're just scoring points. You're just scoring points all the time. And it just kind of hits the brain really nicely. I really enjoy this one. It looks drab as all get out. And I honestly, so I taught this to some folks at Dice Tower East. And I was like, go get the Guild of Merchant Explorers. And literally the person came back with Merchants of the Dark Road, because they just heard Merchants and thought that was the game. And I was like, that's not the game we're playing. This is the game we're playing. And it sounds like they just put it in some sort of like Euro name generator, and this is what they came up with. And the look, frankly, looks like they did the same with the art. But don't sleep on this one. It's really great. One of my favorites of the year. All right, there you go. Those are my favorite games from July. What did you play? I would love to hear about it. I love just hearing about what people play and what their interests are. And it's amazing to me. Sometimes I'll talk to somebody and I just keep thinking like, I don't like any of those games you're talking about. But it makes me really happy that there's so many games out there that make you happy. There's games out here that make me happy. I like these types of games I just talked about, obviously. But there's other people that play super heavy games, or I have some friends that play like miniature war games and tabletop games and Ameritrash kind of dudes on a map kind of games and that kind of stuff. And I don't like those types of games most of the time, but I'm really happy that those exist because other people really like them, and we find a lot of joy and pleasure from that. So I'm Jordan. I hope you had a great July, and I hope we have an even better August, right? Thanks.